Hello, this is Nova Gnome Creations, and I'm Nova, and I am so glad you decided to join me today, where I'm going to be teaching you how to make this planter pot, or flower pot if you'd like to call it that. It's useful for so many things, so I hope that you enjoy this, and let's get into it. To make your flower pot, you're going to want some yarn. I'm using a worsted weight yarn. This is Red Heart Super Saver Latte Stripe that I'm using in particular, but you can use any yarn that's the color that you'd like it to be. You're also going to want to use a crochet hook that is a little bit smaller than your yarn band, about what you would use for amigurumi. This happens to be a 3.75 millimeter hook. A 3.5 would also work really well. Totally up to you what you use for that. And then you're going to want some plastic canvas. This is optional, but if you would like to have some, this is a really good way to stabilize the bottom of your pot. You can also use cardboard or really anything that's a little bit stiff that you can cut a circle shape out of, but this is really cheap. You can get it on Amazon, Walmart, Joann's, like pretty much anywhere, and it's not very expensive, and then you'll have it and it'll last you for a lot of projects. So this is the one that I have. So to begin this project, you're going to go ahead and grab your yarn, and you're going to go ahead and grab your crochet hook. The first thing that you're going to do is make a magic circle. I will show you as I make it, but if you need a breakdown tutorial of how to do a magic circle, I will link my tutorial for that in the description box below so that you can be walked through a step-by-step how to make a magic circle. Once you have your magic circle or your magic circle alternative, whatever you prefer, you can go ahead and begin to single crochet into this magic circle. We are going to place 6 single crochets into our magic circle. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Once you've got those 6 single crochets in there, you can go ahead and pull on your magic circle tail lightly to close it. Don't close it up tightly all the way just yet. We don't want to make it hard to get into this first stitch, which can happen if you close it really tight before you start going into the next round. We're going to go ahead and work into that first stitch that we made, and we are going to work 2 single crochets into this same stitch because we are going to do an increase. So an increase is where you work 2 single crochets. In this particular instance, we're doing single crochets into the same stitch. We are going to go ahead then and pull on this tail nice and snug so that it's nice and tightly shut. And if you would like to use a stitch marker at this point, you can go ahead and grab your stitch marker and place it into that first stitch that we just made. We're going to increase in every stitch around, so we had 6 single crochets. We're going to do 2 single crochets into each of those 6 single crochets, and that will give us 12 at the end of the round. So you're just going to single crochet 2 times into each stitch until you get back to that stitch marker. And then once you arrive back at your stitch marker, you will have 12 stitches. We are currently working on the bottom of our pot. All right, there is my second single crochet in that last stitch, and that will put me at 12. Then you can take out your stitch marker. We are going to do a single crochet, just 1, into that first stitch, and then we are going to put an increase into the second stitch. And that is going to be your repeat for the round. You're going to do single crochet and then an increase. All the way around, you're just going to repeat that. 1 single crochet into this stitch, and then 2 single crochets into the next stitch. And that's going to be your repeat all the way around. You'll repeat single crochet, increase 6 times, and that will put you back at your stitch marker. And that will also give you a total of 18 stitches when you get back to your stitch marker. So if at any point you want to stop and count, you want to make sure that you're on the right track, you will end on an increase. That'll be the last stitch here before your stitch marker, and you will have 18 single crochets. Then we're going to go ahead and pop that stitch marker out, place a single crochet into the first stitch, and then we're going to replace our stitch marker, and this time we're going to be doing single crochet, which I just did, single crochet again into the next stitch, and then an increase. And that is going to be our repeat all the way around. So we're going to do single crochet in one stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, and then 2 single crochets into that third stitch. All right, and that's your pattern. So just repeat that all the way around. Single crochet, and increase. Single crochet, and increase. And you'll repeat that sequence of single crochet, increase 6 times again. And that's going to take you to 24 stitches at the end of this round. So you had 18 at the beginning of this round, and when you get back to the stitch marker, you finish this last increase here, you will have 24 stitches all the way around if you were to stop and count them. All right, and then now we are going to remove our stitch marker. We're going to do one more round that's like those. We're going to go ahead and do a single crochet, and then we're going to replace our stitch marker. This time we're going to be doing 3 single crochets and then an increase. So we've got that first one we just did, second one, third one, and an increase. And that is going to be the repeat for the round. So we are going to put a single crochet in one stitch, a single crochet in a second, and then a single crochet in a third, and then an increase. So you're going to repeat single crochet 3, increase. And that's just going to be your repeat all the way around. You'll repeat it 6 times, and then that will put you back at your stitch marker. You will end on an increase again. And at the end of this round, you're going to have 30 stitches. So you're going from 24 to 30 in this round. And we are just working up the bottom of this pot here. Here pretty soon we'll get out that plastic canvas and go ahead and trace the circle to get the size that we're going to want that little insert to be if you are doing a plastic canvas. If you're not, you can just skip that section, or if you want to do cardboard, I have done cardboard in many a project. It just won't be able to be, you know, thrown in the wash, which I wouldn't really recommend for most amigurumi type projects anyways. Usually you want to spot clean those, but obviously if you put cardboard in it, cardboard is not waterproof. So just something to keep in mind, but totally acceptable to use cardboard. I have used cardboard more than I've used plastic canvas, actually. I'm relatively new to plastic canvas. So okay, so we're going to do one more round and then we will be getting that plastic canvas out. This next round is going to be a back loop only round. So this loop that's closest to you here is your front loop. This loop further away is your back loop, and that is with, you know, your crochet hook on the right side. Like, you know, if you're crocheting with your right hand, it's whatever hand, you know, when you have it in the proper hand and you flip it like this, that's a good way to get a feel for where your front and back loop is. So you have your hook in the hand that you crochet with, kind of flip it up. This loop that's closest to you is going to be your front loop, and that loop that's furthest from you is going to be your back loop. So we are just going to single crochet through the back loop only, and that's what that looks like. So I'll show you one more time and then I'll pop my stitch marker in. You see how there are 2 loops? Instead of going through both like you normally would when you crochet, we are just going to go through that back loop only. And you're just doing a normal single crochet. Then you can go ahead and pop that stitch marker in. We are not doing any increases this round. We are only doing single crochets, just doing them all in the back loop. So you are doing 30 back loop only single crochets. So go ahead and work those 30 back loop only single crochets all the way around. And then if you are going to be using any sort of an insert to stabilize the bottom, make it a little bit flatter, go ahead and grab that. And you're going to go ahead and outline your circle. Just lay this on top of it, outline it with, Sharpie or whatever you want to use, and then cut that shape out. All right, now that I've done that, I'm just going to pull up on my hook here so that I can remove that, and I'm going to go ahead and pop that stitch marker out. And then I'm going to grab a sheet of plastic canvas and something to write with. So put this however you're going to want it. And then grab whatever you would like to trace with. I'm just going to use a Sharpie, just because I know it'll show up well. I'm going to turn this inside out a little bit while I do it. That way I don't write on the outside of my work. And I'm just going to try to get this as close to the edge as I can so that I don't waste any of my plastic canvas. And I am going to try to avoid marking up my crochet. This part doesn't need to be perfect. It's just to give you a rough idea of where you're cutting. And then I know I'm going to go right to the edge there. All right, so that is going to be my shape. I went a little close over there, but that's okay. And then you are going to grab your scissors. And then you are going to go ahead and cut out your shape. All right, and then now I've got my shape. And I won't need this just yet, but this will go in the bottom of here. And once you go to put it in the bottom of here, if you did do it a little bit big since you were tracing, you can always just trim a little bit off of the sides. I can see that that's going to be just a smidgy bit big already that I can tell, so I'm just going to shave the sides down a wee bit right there. And then I will test it later once I get further into making my pot and I know for sure how big I want it to be. Now that we have our bottom traced out, if you are going to be doing that, we can go ahead and pop our stitch marker, or not our stitch marker, our hook back in and pull our yarn tight again. We are going to just be doing a regular single crochet only around this time through the whole stitch, not through back loop onlys. So you can place that first one in there and then grab your stitch marker and put it in that first stitch. That stitch marker just makes it easy for you to keep track of where your first stitch is. So for example, right now, I don't need to count 30 stitches around if I don't want to. I know that I have 30 stitches because I have 30 stitches all the way around. And if I single crochet into each of them all the way back to my stitch marker, then I will know that I did 30 single crochets and then I don't have to keep track. And honestly, the same goes for your whole project. You know, even when you're doing a sequence of repeating, for example, if you're doing 3 single crochets and then an increase, you'll know because they'll fit perfectly. When you get back to that stitch marker, you will be ending, you know, your last increase of your 6 sets. of 3 single crochets and an increase. So the stitch marker really does help so that you don't have to keep like a running total of all of your stitches all the time. But knowing those stitch counts can be really helpful to go back and double check yourself if you're feeling like something is off. So for example, if you were to be doing those 3 single crochets and then an increase, and you got to the end of that round and you did 3 single crochets, but there was no stitch left to put your increase in, you go, oh, okay, so either I messed up in this round or I messed up in the last round. Something isn't adding up. Well, I'm going to stop and count my stitches. And then that'll help you to troubleshoot and figure out where you went wrong so you can fix it. All right, so once you've got that round of single crochets, that was 30 single crochets all the way around, and that was step 7. We're going to move on to step 8, and we are going to single crochet into this first stitch. And then we are going to replace our stitch marker. Now we're going to switch it up a little bit. Instead of doing repeats of 6, we're going to do a repeat of 3. So we're going to single crochet 9 single crochets. So here's my 3rd one, my 4th one, my 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and my 9th. And now we're going to do an increase. So what I mean by the fact that we're doing 3 repeats instead of 6 is with the other rounds we did like single crochet increase, and we would repeat that 6 times, and that would fill out all of our stitches. This time we're just going to be single crocheting 9, increasing, that's 1 repeat. Single crocheting 9, increasing, that's your 2nd repeat. Single crocheting 9 and then increasing, and that'll be your 3rd repeat, and that'll bring you back to your stitch marker. That's how many repeats you're going to do of that pattern. So we're just going to go ahead and repeat that single crochet 9. And then we will do an increase, and then we will repeat that one more time, and we will be back at our stitch marker. Once you've made it back around, we are going to remove our stitch marker and place a single crochet. For this next round, we are going to be doing a repeat of 10 and then an increase, and we're going to repeat that 3 times. So 3 times you're going to place 10 single crochets and then an increase. And right now, starting this round, you should have 33 stitches all the way around, and then by the time that you finish this round, you will have 36. Now, by the way, as we are working this, and we did these back loop only rounds, you'll notice it's starting to cup. That's because we are starting to see our pot shape now. And you will know where the inside is because this magic circle tail is going to be on the inside of your work. So that's a really easy way to tell where the inside of your work is. This is going to be the inside of your pot. You can feel free to weave in that tail now, or you can wait. I'm just going to leave mine for now. And if you need help being like reminded about what the inside of your work is, you may want to leave it for the moment. Also, it's just when you have these back loop onlys, it's pretty easy to tell. You'll see this defined line. That is your front loops that you didn't work in, and so those will be on the outside of your pot, and that is also a good way for you to know for this particular project what the inside versus the outside of your work is. So we are just now doing round 9, and like I said, we are doing single crochet 10 and then increase, and you're just going to repeat that all the way around. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, and an increase, and then you will have 36 stitches at the end of the round. And once you finish that increase, you're going to end on an increase here. We are going to move on to round 10, and we're going to go ahead and place a single crochet in here, and we are actually going to single crochet in every stitch around for round 10 and for round 11. So you're going to do 2 rounds of single crochets. These are going to be 36 stitches around. So if you need to, take a count, see how you're sitting, then you can check for 36 stitches. and you're just going to single crochet in every stitch all the way around to that stitch marker, and then take your stitch marker out, place your first single crochet of the next round, replace your stitch marker, and then single crochet in every stitch around again. So go ahead and do rounds 10 and 11 of single crocheting in every stitch, and meet me back for round 12. Okay, so now that you have got your round 10 and 11 single crocheting done, you can go ahead and put this little piece of plastic or cardboard or whatever it is that you're using, if you're using anything, down in the bottom of here at any point. Now that it's kind of got enough built up for you to, you can save it and do that later. It doesn't really matter. You can just leave this tail and put it in over top of it, or you can weave the tail in. Doesn't really matter. You may have to trim this down, you know, just to get that perfect fit so that it fits all the way down to the bottom of it. And then what you can do is you can either leave it and not do anything. You can hot glue it down, or you could probably even sew this down. The like little crosshairs of this are small, or are big enough that I think you could easily put a sewing needle through it. But that would be pretty tedious, so I'm just gonna hot glue mine in. If you are going to stuff your pot, if you're planning on making this into like an amigurumi or something, you don't necessarily need to glue this down. You're going to put stuffing in it anyways, and that'll kind of hold it in place. If you're not going to put stuffing in it though, and you want it to not be visible, what you can actually do is repeat rounds 1 through 5 that we did to make this bottom part, and you can actually glue that onto here and then put this down in the bottom, and the top of this will actually be just like the bottom. So if you would like to do that, if you're going to use this as a pot and not make it into an amigurumi, you want it to be like, you know, just a cute little pot that you can look inside of and not see this at the bottom, just repeat rounds 1 through 5 of this tutorial, stick that on here, and then glue it into the bottom here. And that's what you'll do. But I just thought I would quickly let you know, and you can just do that at any point. It may be easier for you to do it before the sides start to rise up. And go ahead and put your hook back on if you took it off to, you know, mess around with that part. And we are going to be doing round 12. So for round 12, you're going to throw that first single crochet in, and then you are going to replace your stitch marker. So we have 36 stitches currently. For round 12, we are going to do another repeat of 3. We're going to do single crochet 11 and then an increase. And we're going to do that 3 times, which will bring us all the way around and back to our stitch marker. And after you do that, you'll have 39 stitches. So go ahead and do single crochet 11. 1 single crochet in each stitch for 11 stitches, and then an increase. And then repeat that, and then repeat it one more time, because like I said, this is going to be a repeat of 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and increase. And then we'll go ahead and repeat it. And that is going to be round 12. Alright, so if you are going to be putting the plastic straight into the bottom of here, I went ahead and wove my tail in. Like I said, that is up to you how you would like to do it. If you would like to go ahead and repeat rounds 1 through 5 and put that on top of here to hide the plastic, if you're going to have an open pot, then that is an option that you can do as well. And you could put this in and then put the other piece on top, or put it on top, attach it, and then put this in. So what I'm going to do is literally just go around the bottom of here and kind of put some glue. Doesn't have to be perfect, just sprinkle it around. It really doesn't have to be perfect because this is going in the bottom of here and we're just attaching it. It's gonna stay attached even if it doesn't have like glue everywhere. You know what I'm saying? As long as you've got it glued enough so that it stays down, that's all that matters. It's not like a super picky, like every inch of it needs to be glued down kind of thing. So you really don't have to be super particular about it. I'm just making sure I can see what I'm doing here. And I'm just going around and pushing down on the plastic with my crochet hook. I'm not getting any glue on it because I'm not pressing down on the glue spots. But even if I did, the glue, yeah, there's none on there. I was going to show you, but the glue would be really easy to peel off of this, because hot glue comes off of metal pretty easily, especially because the metal is cold compared to the glue. So that's what mine looks like. I'm just going to let that dry for a sec, and then I will continue on with my project. If you are making this into a plushie style, another little tip that I'll go ahead and throw in here is putting something in here to weigh down your project. That's something that I like to do if I'm making anything that I want to be kind of bottom heavy. Just looking for which drawer I have. There they are. I like to use these, which I put them in this little container, but this isn't what they come in. These actually just come from the dollar store. They are like aquarium beads, or like, not beads, but like little glass rocks that people put inside of water vases, you know, for flowers and things like that. These work really well for weighting it down. You'll just throw a few in here. Another thing I like to use, which you can see some in here, but I don't have as many in here as I was running out of them last time. I just got some of these things from the dollar store, but river rocks. River rocks work really well as well. Really well too. So that's just a little tip if you're trying to weigh down, you know, you want your pot to sit and then you're going to put things in it or on top of it. You know, maybe you're going to put like a little soil layer and then you're going to put flowers and stuff on it, and you want it to stay sitting and not fall over. Then you can weigh down the bottom as much as you want. Usually I only throw a couple of them in, like maybe 3 or 4. And then I just put polyfill in for the rest of it, but you could do as many as you want depending on how weighted you want it to be. But yeah, that's what I do. Alright, so that's round 12. You're ending here on an increase stitch, and I'm just popping out that stitch marker. You're going to have 39 stitches all the way around, and then we are just going to do 2 rounds now of single crochets. So go ahead and single crochet all the way around, which will be 39 single crochets. You're going to single crochet all the way back around to your stitch marker, and then you are going to single crochet all the way back around to your stitch marker again. That's going to be round 13 and 14. Alright, and as you have worked your way around for those single crochet rounds, you will have 39 stitches, and we are going to meet back here now for round 15. Go ahead and pop out your stitch marker, and we are going to be doing 12 single crochets and then an increase. So go ahead and throw your first single crochet in there and replace your stitch marker. We're going to repeat this 3 times. It's going to be another repeat of 3. That doesn't mean 3 rows. That means 3 sequences of 12 single crochets and then an increase. And that will bring you, doing that 3 times will bring you all the way back around to your stitch marker. Just making sure I clarify that. Just because right now we're kind of alternating between doing single crochet rounds and these rounds. So I want to make sure that, you know, you don't get mixed up. But you're doing 12 single crochets and then an increase, and then 12 single crochets and then an increase, and then 12 single crochets and then an increase. And that is going to put you at 42 stitches all the way around when you get done with that. And after this round, you're actually going to do the same little pattern we've been doing, and you're going to do 2 rounds of single crochets. So go ahead and do this round where you're doing your single crochet 12 and then increase all the way around to your stitch marker. You'll have 42 stitches, and then do 2 rounds of just single crocheting and you'll have 42 stitches both times. And then meet me back. That's going to be rounds 15, 16, and 17. All right, and as we come to the end of round 17, you are going to be looking like this. And we are going to move on to round 18. We are actually getting pretty close to finishing up our pot, so we're kind of in the final stages here. For round 18, we are going to be doing a round that has 6 sets of repeats instead of 3. So we're going back to that 6 sets of repeats like we did earlier in the pattern. We are going to be doing single crochet 6 and then an increase, and that is going to be the repeat. So you are going to single crochet 6 times and then do an increase, and then you're going to repeat that and repeat that and repeat that, and you're going to repeat that 6 times in total. And that's going to bring you back to your stitch marker. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and an increase. So we're just getting a little bit more of a steeper, like more quick increase here by doing it this way, so it'll flare out a little bit. 3, 4, 5, and 6. So like I said, that's just going to be our increase, or that's going to be our repeat. 6 single crochets and then an increase. And you're going to repeat that 6 times around, and that is going to take you from 42 stitches that we had when we were doing those last couple of single crochet rounds to when you're finished with this round, you will have 48 stitches all the way around. And that is round 18 finished. So you are looking like this. We are going to do a round of just single crochet. Just 1 round of single crochet this time. So you're going to single crochet 48 times because you're going to single crochet 1 time into each stitch. And that is going to be round 19. So go ahead and single crochet all the way around back to your stitch marker and meet me back. And that is round 19 finished. So that is single crochet 48 all the way around. And then now we are going to do a single crochet round in the back loops only. So you guys remember how I explained how to find your back loop, but I will quickly show you once more. Normally you crochet into this whole part under both loops here. This one that's closest to you, which is just this one, is your front loop, and this one furthest from you is your back loop. So you are going to single crochet into the back loop only. Just a normal single crochet, other than the fact that you're crocheting only through the back loop. And you're going to do that all the way around. So back loop only, single crochet all the way around, which means that you're going to be doing 48 back loop only single crochets. Once you've finished doing your back loop only single crochet round, which is going to be round 20, we are going to do 2 more rounds of just regular single crochets, not in the back loop only, just normal single crochets for round 21 and round 22. Alright guys, you have made it to the final round of our pot. So after round 21 and 22, where you just did single crochets, your pot will be looking a little something like this. We are going to go ahead and pop the stitch marker out, and we are going to chain 1, and then we're going to turn our work, and we're going to start in the same stitch that we just finished in. Okay? So this is our chain 1 right here, and then this right here is the stitch we just finished in. We are going to do front loop only double crochets into these stitches, okay? So to double crochet, we're going to go over our hook, And then we're going to grab this front loop that's closest to us. Apologies. We are actually going to grab what it's going to appear like the back loop only because we have turned our work, but we're going into this stitch, the one furthest from us, okay? So it would have been the front loop only, or front loop if we had had our work facing the other way, but we're going into that loop. So just listen to my explanation if it's a little bit confusing. And then we're going to finish our double crochet. All right, so let me show you one more time. You're going to go over your hook with your yarn. You're going to go into just this loop that is furthest from you. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through both loops, those two loops. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through two again. That's how you do a double crochet. So I was just explaining a double crochet and the front loop only if you don't know how to do a double crochet. Just because I know that double crochets aren't necessarily common in like amigurumi projects, and I sort of think of this like an amigurumi project, so I just wanted to make sure you knew how to do it. All right, and we're just going to continue to do those front loop only double crochets. Like I said, it will kind of feel like you're going into the back loop only now that we turned our work. So just keep in mind that it's that loop that's furthest from you that we're working into. And if it helps you to know where to work, I'll explain why we're working there. We're working there because this is going to be the brim of our pot, and it is going to fold over onto the outside. So putting it in the loop that we're putting it into makes it so that it folds really nicely. And that's why we're crocheting into that loop that we're crocheting into. So we're just going to double crochet into that loop furthest from you. And we're going to do that all the way around. This is the last round of our pot. So we're changing it up a little bit right here at the end to make ourselves a nice brim. Now, while we're working on double crocheting the brim of our pot, I'll kind of explain to you what you can do going forward. So you've got a couple different options. The reason that I made the back loop only round that I did several rounds ago, you can see it because those front loop only rounds are unworked, is that gives you a nice easy place to sew your pot's brim down to. So you can actually flip your brim down, and then you can easily just line it up with these back loop onlys and then sew the edge of your final round here to those back loop onlys, and then it'll keep your pot's brim down. Alternatively, if it's easier for you and you prefer it, you can actually just crochet your brim down to the pot without using those back loop onlys. If you prefer to just, sew it down onto the pot or glue it down or whatever, or if you don't want to sew it and you just want to flip it down and leave it and not attach it, you can always do that as well. But I thought that the back loop onlys there would make it a little bit easier to make it level when you're sewing it down, so that it's even all the way around. Because if you're sewing the edge of your stitches, the top of your stitches, to that round all the way around, it's going to be the exact same way all the way around. It's going to sit the same way. You get what I'm saying? So that was why I did that back loop only round before. And it should line up pretty perfectly, but I'll show you here in a minute what I'm talking about. I'm just kind of explaining to you that you can do it that way, or if you, would rather keep it simple and you don't feel like, lining it up with that other one, then you can just sew it on however you want, or glue it on if you, maybe if you have mobility issues, carpal tunnel, or so many different things, amputations, so many different things, or, just find it easier, you may prefer to glue it down, and that is completely valid. In which case, you can just put your glue onto the brim or onto the pot below the brim, you know, in this little area between those back loop onlys and your brim. Put your glue there, flip it down, and then hold it while it dries. And just go working your way all the way around until you have glued down your whole brim. And then once we get this brim on here, you will actually be finished with your pot if you are not making it into an amigurumi. If you're leaving it in pot form, you know, just having it like an open pot, you will actually be done with it. And if you want to make it into an amigurumi, then you'll just make a little disc in your dirt color and sew that across the top inside with some polyfill in there. Or you could get fancy and crochet clumps of dirt. You could crochet a lump of dirt and put it in there. It's really, this is super customizable for whatever project you're planning on using it for. If you are interested in some projects that I've made using this particular pot, I will link them in the description box. I have, at the time of filming this, one pattern that uses this, which is a gnome that wears this pot on its head. But I have 2 other projects planned that are going to utilize this pot. So once I get those done, I will also put those in there. And those will either have patterns, like PDF patterns on my Etsy, or they will have tutorials, or they will have both. So now I'm just trying to see if this last one is a stitch. Yeah, I think that's a stitch too. It can be kind of hard to tell on that last one, but it really doesn't hurt anything if you crochet into it and it's not. Okay, so this first one that we did was right here, and we're going to slip stitch to that first double crochet that we made. Okay, just like that. Let me show you one more time in case you don't know how to slip stitch. You're going to get to the end of your round. You're going to find that first double crochet that you made, and it's going to look a little funny because remember we just did a chain 1 and then we made a double crochet in the same stitch. This right here is our chain 1, but you'll notice this one that's more at the height of the rest of the double crochets, that is your first double crochet. You'll put your hook through it and yarn over, pull through, and then just continue to pull through into the loop that was already on your hook. I like to chain 1 to bind off, so you can go ahead and chain 1 if you would like to, and then you can leave yourself a nice long tail for sewing if you are going to be sewing your pot brim down, and then pull up on your hook until you've pulled it completely out, and it will be looking like this. Now you'll notice that mine has some variation in color. That's because I'm using Red Heart Super Savers Latte Stripe. I actually think that it is a very cool effect for a pot. I feel like it gives it, I don't know, almost like a more realistic look to it, that it's not all one shade. You could totally do this with some like eyeshadow and like a fluffy brush, just kind of brush on some browns to give it like a little bit of a weathered look, you know? But also you could just do it all one solid color, totally up to you. But that's just something that I thought was kind of cool about using that variegated yarn or that striping yarn. So you'll notice that this sits perfectly flush with this back loop only round that I had talked about. So it really will be easy to line it up. And let me grab my darning needle. You're going to want to grab a darning needle if you're sewing and thread your yarn onto it. I like to use these bent tip needles like this. Just a personal preference, but you can use whatever needle that you normally use. And then what you can do is you can line up this edge and go through these little back loop onlys, you see them, and just sew this down between the back loop onlys. From there, you know, put your hook or your needle through it, and then put your needle through the top of the round that we just finished. And then you can just work your way all the way around. You're picking up that loop that we had left behind on round 20, and then through the top of the stitch that we just finished the round on. And you can just go all the way around doing this, picking up that loop, picking up the stitch that we just finished the round on. And this is one way you can attach it. Or like I said, if you prefer, like if you don't want to take the time or you think it looks better or something, you could always just go like this. And sew your pot to the side this way. Just however, you know, works best for you. Oops, I have a little nail polish on there. And it will give a different effect if you just sew your pot to the side, not using the edge of the stitches. You'll notice that it looks different. So it kind of leaves like a little bit more popped out. So from here to here is if you just sew it to the side, like without using those loops. And then from here to here is if you use those loops. So it will give like a slightly different effect, and that's totally up to you what you want to do. But that is the tutorial, guys. That is how you make your own little pot. Like I said, you can also just not sew it down at all and just leave it flipped. It'll stay flipped like that. You don't need to sew it. You don't need to secure it. But there you go. And if you would like to crochet just a circle to put on here, you could stick it in here and sew it down around the edges, or glue it or whatever. If you want to make it like a pot filled with soil, and then you'll just stick your polyfill in here or whatever. So this is really customizable, that you could do a lot of different projects with it, and you know, put different flowers in it, use it to hold things. Like you could throw, even for example, you could use it to hold crochet hooks. Like I said, I have a tutorial, or I have a pattern where it is used as a gnome hat, you know, like a little flower gnome wearing a little pot askew on its head. But you could use it to hold crochet flowers, whatever. You could make like little cactus, you know, things like that. But those are just some different ideas. If you do make this, let me know how it goes for you. I would love to hear your feedback in the comments. Please let me know if you enjoyed this pattern or this tutorial, and definitely make sure that you subscribe if you enjoyed this tutorial. I like to post different tutorials that are beginner friendly. I also just like to make chatty vlogs where I talk about crochet and yarn and all the good stuff. So if you enjoyed this tutorial, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you on the next video. Bye guys!